Hey there, today we are making a super small batch of raspberry jam. And I'm showing you mostly because when I discovered this technique, someone did it online 4 or 5 years ago, so I'm afraid I can't give you a direct link to where I got it from initially. It's not really a recipe, it's a technique more than anything else. And it totally changed how I make jam. Now, I still like to get 20 pounds of peaches or cherries and pit them and turn them into jam and can them using a water bath. But that's not what we're doing today. We're doing a super quick, 10 minutes tops, with very, very small amounts of fruit. And I do this when we've run out of jam and I have half a bag of frozen fruit in the freezer. If I picked raspberries like I have over the last couple of days and we already have some in the freezer and I've already been putting them in my smoothies, and hey, it would be nice to have some raspberry jam. So we're gonna make some raspberry jam. That's why I use this technique. I still can sometimes, but this is for those of you who don't want to can or who don't want to deal with 20 pounds of something. You've got a cup of raspberries, you can make jam, and that's all you need if you don't need a lot of jam or there's just 1 or 2 of you. So let's get started. What I have here is approximately a cup, maybe it's a little more, 1.25 cups of raspberries that I picked. This is maple syrup, and that's probably a couple of tablespoons in there. And this is some orange zest from an organic orange. The zest is just the very outer orange part, not the white part. So that's all I need to make jam. There's no pectin. I am not using white sugar, any of those things that often make people not want to make jam because they don't have pectin around or they don't want to use white sugar. So this is not for canning. I need to be really, really clear about this because it's not safe to can, okay? Canning requires that you have the right ratio of fruit or vegetables to sugar or salt and liquid, and that keeps it safe so that it can sit there canned for long periods of time. You open it up and it's still good. This recipe that I'm making today is only to have a jar of jam in your fridge to use it fresh. Now, I can't tell you exactly how long it'll last because that depends on you and how...
2 days.
No, more than that. But it depends on you and how much A, sweetener you put in, and B, how quickly you use jam. So make it and try and see how long it lasts for you, okay? So we're gonna start with a frying pan. And the reason we're doing this is that using a frying pan instead of a usual big pot, first of all, small amount of berries, but also we want a greater surface area. That's super important, is that when you put your berries in, you should be able to see the pan through the berries. Otherwise, it's gonna take you longer to cook this out. And I'm gonna start by putting just a little bit. That's not even half of the maple syrup that's in there, so that's less than a tablespoon. I'm just gonna give them a little smush. Now you could let it sit for a minute or two, and the sugar in the maple syrup will start to break down the cell walls of the berries. And berries are super quick. Things like apples or peaches or apricots will take longer using this method just because they have more substance to them, and berries break down really quickly. I'm gonna put this on a medium heat. And it depends on your stove. You're looking for either a medium to high heat, because what you want to happen here is you want the berries to, you can even start to hear it do its thing. You want the berries to start to break down and smush themselves into whatever sweetener you're using. And like I said here, you can use maple syrup, honey. You could use no sweetener at all. Because you're not canning it, it's totally up to you and just what it tastes like, not whether it's safe or not.
Now, could you food process those first?
You could if you wanted to, but there's absolutely no reason to.
Except speeds, any faster?
Not really, no.
Okay.
So I'm just using the spatula, but sometimes I've just left it to sit. But I didn't smush them, I just stirred them. You do want to keep stirring. And because you do, wow, just got hit with this amazing raspberry scent. It's really yummy.
That's my cologne.
It really isn't. But love, if you want to get a raspberry cologne, that might work for you.
Raspberry cologne.
Ooh, ouch. Yeah, Prince is turning in his grave. Anyway, as you can see already, the berries are giving up some moisture. And we're just moving them around because you don't want them to burn, okay? And you just want them to keep doing their smushy thing till they get to be more, what's the word I want?
Desegmented.
Homogeneous is actually the word I was going to go for. But, and I'm going to just add a little of that orange zest right now because I like raspberry and orange together. I think it's a pretty
Is
nice
that just
flavor.
purely, does it have any biochemical attributes or it's
No.
just kind of yummy?
That's for flavor. And interesting, actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Rob, because I have made strawberry jam like this, small batch strawberry jam, where I added some black pepper. The raspberry's good with orange. Oh, black pepper and a bit of balsamic is really nice in that as well. Because you're not canning this, again, you don't have to worry about how those flavors might affect the recipe and the safety of the canning. You can see here, I'm actually going to turn this up just a touch more. It's bubbling away.
That happens fast.
Really fast for berries. Like I said, if it was apples that you'd cubed or something, it would take longer for them to start to break down. But berries are super quick, and I've done blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries this way. And what the cooking is doing here is it's, like I said, breaking down the cell walls of the berries, but the other thing that it's doing is evaporating out the moisture. So the reason we're not using pectin here, pectin in a canned jam is what makes it gel. But you can also do long cook big batch jams without pectin, but you have to cook them for a really, really long time because you've got such a large amount of fruit and very little surface area. I guess if you had a massive pan, you could do it like this. So we're not actually going to be cooking the raspberries for very long, but like I said, keep stirring because I see already on the edge there, because I was talking to you, there's a little darkening.
It's all my fault. I am the husband.
The only question here is, actually I'm going to turn it back down a little, not a lot, it's still pretty high, is this sweet enough for us to use as a jam? And I'm just going to pop a little bit in here to cool down enough for me to taste it.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to put that directly on your tongue.
No, I wouldn't. So I'm just keeping this moving. Now, if you really don't like the seeds in raspberries, you could push this through a strainer. Turn it down too low.
That'd be more of a jelly, wouldn't it?
No, actually seedless raspberry jams are pushed through a sieve, sorry, not a strainer, and that gets rid of the seeds. You could also, if you have a Vitamix, you could throw it in the Vitamix and blitz it because Vitamix totally takes care of the seeds. So there, I think we're pretty close. The question is it sweet enough? So I'm just gonna, the orange is really nice. It's tart from the raspberry. I'm gonna put just a bit more maple syrup in there.
Put it all in. Put it all.
No, I'm not
you
going
know,
to.
You know you want
I don't want to. Stir that around. This is a clean jar.
Good call.
Yeah, sterilized, because if your jar's clean, there's less possibility that any kind of bacteria or anything is going to get in the way of your beautiful jam and make it last less time in the fridge.
Ooh,
so, as you can see,
it's a very small batch of jam.
it's extremely small. Probably should have used another jar. But there you go. Super small batch. That took less than 10 minutes, right? And you can pop this in the fridge once it cools down, put a lid on it, put it in the fridge, use it over the next, 5 days, give or take. Great on yogurt, whatever. If you're worried about your sugar intake and you want to use sugar alternatives, whether that's a natural alternative or other kinds, that's up to you. This is a great way to do it because you can have your jam and you can eat it too.